why is it always talked about the physicality aspect, but they don't focus on like today's game? There's obviously more talent.
Well, I don't. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know why they don't focus on today being about it being superior talent. I think I'm guessing. Because in fairness to you, I've never even asked that question to anybody else, and I should have. I would surmise that the reason why people do that is because as superior as today's athletes are, you can't get away from the fact that they're helped tremendously by the way the game is called. Let me give you an example. I believe that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter God ever created.
I think, yeah. 100%.
Okay.
I don't think that's an argument. You can argue that.
It's not
an argument.
But I'm just saying, we see him, whatever. So let me share a conversation with you that I had with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas said to me one time, and he loves Steph Curry and thinks that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter ever, blah, blah, blah. He said if he was playing in our era, he would not have averaged more than 18 points a game.
Okay.
And I said, how
that's
could you?
blasphemous. Yeah. That's
No, don't say, listen to the answer, bro. There's a reason this two-time champion said that.
Yeah.
The rules would have allowed them to rest on his shoulder and to be physical with him in such a way that he wouldn't have been able to get the shot off.
Okay.
The rules would have allowed that when he came through the paint, we were going to make him feel us. And he wasn't going to be in any condition to run around as much as he can.
Yeah, the way you're explaining it.
Now, if you remember, the first few years Steph Curry was in the league, what was his issue? He had ankle problems.
Yeah.
Remember, they had to work through that. It was like 4 or 5 years. In his 4th, 5th year in the league, there were legitimate questions as to how long would his career last because he kept getting these ankle injuries. Well, those old school guys said, well, what do you think we would have done to that? You think we would have just let him run by us? They said we'd have been tripping him. We'd have been doing everything. He would have felt knees. He would have felt elbows. We would have tripped him. We would have got physical with him. And we would have gotten away with it because of the way the game was called and what was allowed. So when you hear that, all of a sudden, now you have to think and you have to look at dudes in different light. When you look at a guy, Eddie Johnson does Sirius XM radio, in the afternoon on NBA radio. And he was averaging like 17, 18 points a night, and people revere him. Why? Because of his toughness. You look at guys like Oakley. Remember the old days with Maurice Lucas and people like that. They were enforcers. Who's an enforcer now? There's no such thing. It's not allowed.
Right.
You look at guys like, Bird coming up. You looked at Dr. J, and it's like, wait a minute. The physicality that existed, what they would try to do to derail you physically, and what you were able to overcome to showcase your greatness. That is what they're talking about. So when they bring stuff like that up, that's when I'm saying, okay, it makes sense now.
I think, too, going off that, Steph Curry, like in that sense, he's probably not going to play as confident mentally if he knows it's a more physical game.
Yeah.
I think nowadays he's probably pretty confident he's going to get the call. He's protected.
Okay. When somebody's shooting, right?
Yeah.
You ever see a shooter and sometimes they just run at you and they act like they're going to hit you in your lower body or something like that to make you flinch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Guys in today's game follow through with no problem because it's so rare that happens. Guys back in the day would flinch in a heartbeat and wouldn't follow through because they knew they were going to get hit.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not literally, but it's almost like in football, a wide receiver going over the middle and you're waiting for a Micah Parsons in today's game or a Ronnie Lott back in the day or whatever. Jack Tatum back in the day who paralyzed Darryl Stingley, God rest his soul. Stuff like that. When you see guys and you know their intentions are to hurt you, they are out there to do nothing else but to punish you. All of a sudden you that receiver and now you got alligator arms.
Yeah.
You scared. Because you know you're going to get popped. That's the conditions under which those NBA players had to play to a lesser degree. And so when they bring that up and they say, don't talk to us about toughness, the best way they can bring it, give you some clue as to what they're thinking is when they say, well, if Jordan was playing today, he'd average 60. Why are they talking about that? The athletes are better. They're talking about the way the game is called and how soft it is compared to how it was once called. That's why they think
Yeah.
he could average 60.